Good morning, kids. It is good to be with you. Now, in this Sunday school video, we're moving past parables. So, in Jesus' life, we've done miracles, parables, and a few random stories in between. And now we're going to talk about some of Jesus's teachings, his teachings, what he came to tell people, right? And for the first 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about a very, very famous teaching that Jesus gave, and it's called the Sermon on the Mount. The sermon, right? Like a sermon, like Pastor Kevin gives sermons every Sunday. So Jesus is giving a sermon, and it's called the Sermon on the Mount because he was standing on a high place preaching to a lot of people who were listening. So, the Sermon on the Mount. Now, the thing is, the Sermon on the Mount is 3 chapters long. 3 chapters long. And if we were to pick apart every single teaching, we could spend months and months and months in the Sermon on the Mount. And maybe one day we'll go more in depth. But for this series, we're only spending 2 weeks on it. So what I've done is I've just picked out a couple pieces of Jesus's teachings that I think are interesting or relevant or cool to think about. So, um, we will be talking about Jesus's Sermon on the Mount. So, the first teaching that I want to talk about, Jesus, right? We know about the Ten Commandments. We've talked about the Ten Commandments. Jesus takes the Ten Commandments and then kind of ramps them up. He says, "You've heard it was said." That's how it always starts. "You've heard it was said, do not fill in the blank," right? What are the Ten Commandments? Do not murder, do not steal, do not covet, do not be envious, right? All these things. So Jesus says, "You've heard it was said, do not do this thing. But I tell you," that's the second part. He always says, "But I tell you." And then he explains the heart of the rule. And so the one I want to talk about is Jesus says, "You've heard it was said, do not murder." Now, why would I pick that one, right? Because I am so confident that none of you guys will murder anyone, right? That seems so serious, right? Why would I talk about this one with kids? But Jesus says, "But I said, if you are angry with someone, then it's basically the same, right? If you have anger and hatred in your heart for someone, then it's basically the same." And I think it's important because we can all struggle with anger and hatred. What makes you angry? What is it that someone can do to you or say to you or not do for you that would make you angry or make you hate someone, right? We all have those things, right? But Jesus says we shouldn't hate people, right? We should never hate people. So it's okay to be angry, right? Things naturally make us angry or frustrated. But what we should never do is we should never hate people, right? Because Jesus is saying, "You've heard it was said, do not murder. But I tell you, if you hate someone, well, then that's basically just as bad, right?" Because what do we do in our hearts when we hate someone? We we think they're less than human, right? We take away their humanity. And that's essentially as bad as killing someone. That's what Jesus is saying. So, what should we do if we feel angry towards someone? Instead of hating them, what should we do with our anger? Can we use our words? And can we say, "What you did really upset me, and it is not okay that you said that or did that," right? We can let people know what they've done to make us angry and say, "That is not okay that you did that," right? We can talk to someone else. We can say, "This person did this to me, and I really didn't like that." And that person can listen to you and be there for you and support you. And then another thing we can do is we can forgive the person, right? Because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone messes up at some point. And so when someone hurts us, we can say, that made me angry, but then we can forgive them and move on, right? Instead of holding on to it and letting it turn into hatred in our heart, letting it turn into hatred in our heart. Now, this video has already gone on for like 5 minutes. And the second thing I wanted to talk about was Jesus says, you right there, you sitting there watching this video, he says, you are the salt and the light of the world. What does that mean? We're salt? Well, salt is in everything, right? Salt is in everything. Why do we put salt in food? Because it brings out the natural, tasty flavors of the food, right? It makes the food taste better, right? And so when Jesus says we are the salt of the world, we can make things better around us. Have you ever had a friend who said something nice to you or did something nice for you, or maybe your parent or a sibling, and it just made your whole day better? It just made everything better. Jesus is saying we can do that for other people. We are the salt. We can make things better for other people. And then we are the light, right? What does light do for us? Light helps us see. It helps us know where we are going, right? So we can help other people. When other people feel like they're stuck in the darkness, right? We can be a comfort. Light can be a comfort, right? If we're in the dark and we're kind of scared, what is the thing that takes that away? It takes away the fear. Turning the lights on. We can help take away other people's fear. We can help people with where they're going in life. There are so many things it means to be light for people, right? And so what I want you to think about this week is, how can I be salt and light for the people around me? How can I make their world better? And how can I help them? That's what I want you to think about. So that is week 1 on the Sermon on the Mount. Next week, we'll talk about a few other teachings in the Sermon on the Mount. Until then, I hope you are well.